Welcome to the Dylan Experience. It is episode 30. I'm your host, Dylan Sessler, and I have a wonderful guest for you today. I'm going to learn so much about her. I haven't really had much of an opportunity to talk to her. But before that, if you're listening on YouTube, watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on Anchor or any other podcast platform, make sure you go ahead and follow, subscribe, hit the bell notification, all the things that you do to make sure you keep in touch with me. But my next guest I'm excited for this because there's so many different things that we can talk to her about. But my next guest lost her mother to cancer at just 11 years old. And from that tragic moment, she crafted a life of purpose, clarity, and empowerment. She's an intuitive relationships catalyst and a heart imagery teacher from the School of the Art. The Heart, excuse me. A trauma-informed writer, speaker, storyteller, leader, and advocate. My next guest is Andrea Petrut. Andrea, how are you?
I'm breathing today after a day full of events in the world and the family. And I'm also excited for this meeting and what we can do together.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's so much to talk about, right? There's so many things that it seems like you've got your hands in all the fires, or your irons in all the fires. But tell me a little bit about your story. Start with the beginning, go to the middle, go to the end, wherever you want to go. You tell me, kind of lead me on an understanding of you. Like, where did you come from and how did you get to where you are now?
I'm born in Romania in 1981. And I remember when I was about 2 years old, I would go out the house with my parents and I would see somebody sitting on a bench and I would just go to them. I would smile. And this is me. I am somebody who always loved people, who always loved to be with people, be around people. And I always suffered when I was alone. I was loved by everybody. Just that I had needs that my friends sometimes I just understood, sometimes they didn't. My family was going through different things of their own. I was loved when they knew that was the right time, and I needed support when they thought I was okay. And sometimes I needed help before I would go to sleep. Sometimes I would be fine being alone at 4 or 5 years old in the house. So it depends. All these experiences in childhood helped me have the strength when my mother died. And in the same time, I needed to find my own way to heal and become, as you know, that pillar for myself. Like, I'm doing my best to support others to be for themselves. And you know, when you said about my mom dying when I was 11, it's still hard to hear. It's easy for me to write, easy for me to say sometimes, but when I hear it from somebody else, it's like, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. And, you know, she was amazing. I call her Sunshine. I call myself Sunshine, but I call her Sunshine because I discovered something amazing before she died and especially after. Have you ever had somebody who, when they are around you, you don't know why, but you're smiling? They make you love life, or they just get you out of your whatever you're in, depression, or having that feeling of I don't want to do anything. Or she would just take you out and say, okay, I work for 5 days, now I want to go to the mountains in the weekend. My dad was angry because she would be spontaneous, and he's the one who wants to be taken slow, help him be ready and all of that, but she's like, no, I want to go now. So in my family, we always had this exuberant woman who loved life and nature and who wanted to do things her own way, and that man who was working 5 days um, somewhere as a project manager, and when he went home, he just wanted to stay. You know,
Yeah.
she was the sunshine because she literally brought light into people's lives, and this is the legacy she gave me. You know, for 11 years I did not have a chance to speak to my mom like I'm speaking to you now, so I can hear your stories. You know, i I didn't hear, I watched. And you know very well that we children, we learn by watching, by being in an environment, by sensing things. And the beautiful side of having my mom for 11 years is that I saw greatness. I saw courage. And I'm going to give you an example because it's going to be fun for your audience. I was about maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 years old. We were hiking in the mountains, and this mom of mine was around me. I don't think she was ahead. I think she was behind me because we were on a very steep path. So if you would look down, you would say, I'm going to die. So you just wanted to look ahead and hold on to some chains. And, I was little. So basically, my feet would have enough space to walk, right? But I felt like this is crazy. And so I just held on because of her. Like, that's my mom. She didn't care. I was 6 or 7, 4 or 5. If she wanted to go somewhere, she would take me and she would trick me. And I think this is this is one thing that held me in life. We were walking one day, and it was just me and her, two lunatics, on the street and trying to reach some kind of chalet or motel somewhere. It was sunny, nice day, and I look at the milestones and I see like 16 kilometers, I don't know, 15 kilometers, and I knew how to count. So I'm like, Mom, when do we get there? Oh, it's very close. It's very close. Just a little bit, just a little bit more. Then I see another one, Mom. When do we get there? Just a little bit, just a little bit. So that was her style. And this is how I did it in life. Every time something was hard, too hard, I remembered her words. And that just a little bit more, Andrea, just a little bit more, just push it a little, just have patience, just hold on. So that's how I've learned from her, by interacting with her, by watching. And the biggest lesson about her being the sunshine is that everybody was, almost like a shell. Like, you are full of life now, Dylan, right?
Mhm.
I think you know better than me a moment where you felt like you almost have no life left in you,
I lived like that. It
right?
wasn't just one moment, it was
No,
19 years.
19 years. Well, I don't know how it's like for 19 years. I watched myself and especially others, how it's like you turn off the light in a room and hundreds of people
Yep.
just cannot smile like they used to smile. It was unbelievable. Everybody was shocked. I have somebody who is traumatized for life. So I don't want to leave you all sad. Please, come on. Uh, I became what she was, a sunshine. It's just that I'm taking her life, her legacy, and her dreams even further. And that's my work now.
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about the work, right? Like The relationship, or the intuitive relationships catalyst, the heart imagery teacher. Tell me about those things.
We come back a bit. When I was 11, I had the opportunity every single day, week, month, year, to ask myself why and how. Why did it happen? How we could have done better, and because we cannot change the past, what I can do for myself. I chose relationships because this is exactly the focus that I've had in my life. I noticed what didn't work between my parents. I noticed what was not functioning, and I started, I assume, like many of us, with blame. I blamed my father. I didn't blame myself because, there was nothing to blame myself for, but I blamed some people around me, because what else could I do? He was gone. I watched all the relationships in my family, me and my dad and my mom, um, her brother, my grandparents, like every single relationship from the closest to the furthest. I listened to stories from my grandparents. So I started seeing a pattern or patterns and making a puzzle for myself. And I started doing what my dad taught me, which is take what's good from us, leave what it's not for you. And having conversation with him helped me figure out. And it took me decades actually to acknowledge what really happened in my family. Maybe it's hard when you love somebody very much, and in the same time, they could have done better.
Yeah.
I needed time to forgive my dad. So this is another way I learned. Like in the relationship with my dad, I went through all these emotions and thoughts, and years went by. I was partly a rebel, partly an amazing friend for my dad. We were like sometimes like best friends or siblings, or I was the mama bear for him, and he felt loved and cared for. All these roles in the same relationship taught me a lot. And every kind of relationship that I had in my life taught me something. I had toxic relationships with boyfriends. I had toxic relationships with girlfriends. All of these things, I took them in. How I work in terms of how I process is I experience and I integrate. That's why I call myself intuitive relationship catalyst, because I don't think logically. I absorb, see, sense, feel, or know, and I compare how I feel in different moments with the same person or other people in environments, how everything influences me or not. And I call myself a catalyst because, one, I don't think people are something to fix. I don't think we're broken. There is something broken inside, yes, but I don't think we're broken and we need to be fixed. Then I believe we have all the answers right there within us, in our hearts, or we could say in a sacred space somewhere inside us. And I believe that people around us, or tools, are ways in which we are guided to come back to that grounding, to the diamond inside, to the gifts, to what's most precious within us and for us, and that which guides us in life. So I bridge that. I help people see what they don't, but they could. I help people hear, feel, sense, or know, or simply recognize some things about themselves or in their life. And they, not me, they make the journey back to themselves.
You said something a little bit ago that caught my eye, or I'm sorry, caught my ear. Um, you said, you talked about feeling, sensing, seeing. You said a bunch of different things, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you said afterwards is, "I don't think logically," and I would almost disagree with you, because that is that is absolutely, like, and I'm looking at the definition of logic, right? Reasoning conducted or assessed according to strict principles of validity. We don't have an understanding of what those principles of validity are, I think, right? And so when we look at what you are doing, um, I look at that and I think it's a extremely hard thing to say that you don't think logically when you've created those strict principles of validity, very much so, and you're looking at it from differing perspectives. Like, I fundamentally think that that is absolutely logic, because you've actually created the principles that matter.
Yes, you are right. And what I meant was, I perceive the world through the eyes of my heart.
Mhm.
And then comes the mind.
Which is logical to me.
Well, I am happy you say that, because not many people recognize that it is logical.
Yeah.
And maybe, I use those words because, um,
I think there's, and if you don't mind me interrupting,
please.
I think like one of the biggest things I do, I call myself a mental health coach, right?
Hmm.
But I feel like we're very much in the same line of work,
Hmm.
obviously. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different names for it.
Yeah.
What what I really help people understand is exactly what I just kind of helped, in many ways, helped you understand. How to define the message you're actually speaking and sharing, right? And so you do it a little bit differently than me. You are talking about body language, very much so, and deep intrinsic body language of not only what you are expressing, but what you're feeling, right? And I
Hmm.
do that too. But one of the things I focus on is words, right? Because it is incredibly difficult to verbalize and talk about something if you don't have the words or the vocabulary to do it. And one of the biggest things that we do to communicate now is use words, right?
Yes.
And there's absolutely many different ways and forms of communication, to include, that intrinsic body language that we have had for millennia. But where I think people struggle is that, one, they've never really defined the words that they're actually using, right? And so
Yes.
logic, it's just never been a thing that they understand. Like, people talk about it, they say it, but you use a word 1,000 times, and if you've never used the definition, all you have is contextual understanding of the word, and you're just trying to make it fit in the sentence. And when you look at it, like, I look at logic as kind of the ultimate, like, again, set of principles to validate what you're doing. And what I see with trauma, and what I see uh with what I see with people struggling, is they've created a rational way of looking at the world, cause and effect, right? And I look at
Hmm.
rationality as this understanding that everything you've been through is valid, right? Every feeling you've ever had is valid. And so you go through something and you have this cause and effect, and maybe in your childhood you go through trauma, and then you become a people pleaser because you don't want to go through more trauma. So you just eliminate you know the
Yes.
the conflict in your life. And
Yes.
so maybe you go through more trauma, but you think rationally that pleasing people will negate the fact that you're going to endure more trauma, but it
Hmm.
doesn't,
Yeah.
because there is no logical understanding applied to that as you grow. And so, like, people are 100% rational. They learn about the cause, they have an effect, right? And then what happens is a cause might cause them to create a different cause, right? Like, and it becomes this complicated web of causation and effect. And ultimately, what people rarely do is look back on how to define, right? You said a couple things, why and how, right? Those questions, they don't ask those questions.
Yes.
About why does this cause have this effect 12 years from it when it happened, right? And then they never follow and trace that thing back. And it's remarkable to see how different people operate in that arena, and how, you look at logic, how you look at rationality, how you look at the heart, right? Because it's such a powerful organ in the body. I don't even know where I was going with that, but I think it's, just to help you kind of clarify some of the words. I think that's, obviously you now know where I kind of line up in this conversation compared to you, and maybe we can offset each other or challenge each other. I love these kinds of conversations.
I read some of your work and I listened to you. And what I noticed in the way you write and speak is something coming from your core, which transpired in how you talked about logic.
Oh, this should be interesting.
Okay, people, I got him now.
Feel very visible right now.
Every single word you write and say is put out there, very specific. I don't know. You tell us how you do it. So it could be that you set an intention before you speak or write, and because of your integrity, values, and inner structure, everything goes out right, like on your website, everywhere. Like I saw and felt the same thing. Every single word is spoken and written from the same core, I believe, with the same intention. And it's like somebody takes a word, makes a brick out of it, and then it's going to put every single brick, builds a paragraph, then builds a story. And that story, when you look at it, it's a house. It's actually a house in which everybody listening and hearing can go inside, feel that, it's a bit raw, like maybe it needs some paint here and there for them. But how you put it, it's perfect the way it is. And it allows everybody listening or reading to feel safe and to grab onto any word out there, because every single word has the power in it, has the energy necessary to pull through, to have what I told about my mom, like just a little bit more, read this word, and then the second word, and the third, like every single word. If the audience listens or the readers continue to read, they will feel that breathe one more time, live one more word, take one more second, stay with me. I'm going to show you why. It's that, and you show the why in every step. What the difference between you and me, first of all, there's no difference. But
I feel remarkably understood right now. So
good.
Please continue. I'm
Okay.
really, really intrigued.
You wanted this interview,
I did, and I'm so glad we did this.
Me too, because I really want you to know this. This is so special. I think you are among the few people that I met who has that power, who has that gift, who has the experience. And I know it comes from your training and your background as a veteran. And I will tell you why I know, and you tell me how you feel about what I'm going to tell you. But before I continue with that, so this is the commonality between you and me. Both of us set an intention before we say something. Both of us know very well that every single word that gets out of our mouth, every word that we put on paper or digitally, is going to affect people.
Yeah.
We are responsible people who care. We know that we only have 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds before somebody takes an action we don't want them to take. We want to tell them, give yourself a chance. Give me the chance to show you why you should keep going. And this is a rare thing to notice. Rarely you see coaches, therapists, or others who really care about every single thing they do or say. We need to be careful. People need us to be careful. This is not a game. You know, in mental health, this is not a game. People, in my opinion, should not do this if they cannot be responsible for their actions, their thoughts, their intentions, their words, their everything. Like, better get out, because you're going to hurt people more than they are already hurt.
Yeah.
Now, that's the commonality.
Yeah.
What is different, but not so different? So the only nuance here is in who I am and how I perceive life and how I express myself. Whenever I speak, my heart speaks in my own way. It's like there's a waterfall continuously flowing inside me in my heart. And from that waterfall, you know, some droplets or whatever come out, and my words are immersed or imbued with that. You speak and write with what I call the divine masculine. I speak and write with what I call the divine feminine. That's the only difference between you and I at the surface and deeper. What I mean by that is that you have taken everything that's human and divine, and you chose to keep the feminine, the love for people, the love for what you do, while also bringing out what is masculine in you, which is the strength, the power, the strategy, helping people just like, I don't know, like an airplane flies, or I don't even know, you know better than me how to put it in words. In my case, I took the masculine and made it my pillar, my rock, what holds me and what helps me pull through. And I gave the divine feminine the power, and I allowed it to speak. So the same love you have for people, I have it, and I use it gracefully. I call graceful power. And actually, you might have it too. It's just, maybe it's difficult to say a man has a graceful power, but it's the love in you and the femininity who's actually making you or helping you be who you are. This is in the maybe simplest, maybe not simple, so simple way that I can say, yes, we are alike. Yes, we have lots of things in common. At the same time, it's like you are using your gift, I am using mine, but actually we are both the same in many respects.
Yeah.
And the thing,
go ahead.
The thing that I wanted to share with you, so you see how you feel about it, is one image that actually, it's a vision that helped me since I was maybe immediately after my mom died. I'm not sure yet. All I remember is the vision. I don't know when it formed. I see myself on the battlefield. You know, I'm a woman. In Romania, only before 1989, women went into the army and learned how to shoot and all of that. So I was just 8 years old in 1989. That was impossible for me.
Right.
But I watched movies, documentaries, read books. So I assume somehow I integrated some of those things, especially because I read, but I'm not sure if I read at that age, Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
So at that age, before 11 and 14 years old, I have this vision where I am on a battlefield. I'm a soldier, and the battlefield is huge. I don't think there's something like that, but anyway, where everybody's dying or dead. I have open wounds, and I don't even feel the pain anymore. My body's full of wounds. All my friends, colleagues, people are dying or dead. The sky is red and clear. There are no clouds, and there's the sun at the horizon. So I look around, there are no trees, no rocks, no nothing. It's just me in the bloody mud looking at that horizon. So in the vision, again, this is not reality, in that vision, what I feel doing is looking ahead and very determined, I say to myself, whether people leave or die around me, I'm going to crawl, I'm going to walk on all fours, and then I'm going to stand up. And if I fall again, that's okay. I'm going to crawl, I'm going to walk on all fours, I'm going to stand up until I reach the horizon. And this is how I envision myself every single day, or as often as possible, almost until today. For me, what it means, when I told my dad, he was like, "Oh, you're a snake." You know why? Because he could not accept that I am okay with people dying around me. I was actually supporting myself, supporting my psychology and my mindset with the reality that even my father can die in his sleep, or who knows. We had earthquakes in Romania. I imagined myself that the building was down. I only had the clothes that I had on me, and I had to live my life. And I said, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to ask for food. I'm going to work for food. I'm going to be fine. So whatever happened in my life, that vision and the psychology of a warrior like that helped me through everything that I went through. So for me, the idea of being a warrior on a battlefield, in the position where you have nothing else left, your body is almost down, nobody's around you, like nothing else left. But there was one thing that I always lived for, one thing that I always fight for, one thing that I'm heading towards. That is love. That light, the sun right there at the horizon, is the love of life, the love for God, and the love for me. That's why I'm still here today.
It's, I mean, super relatable. I mean, different, certainly different circumstances, but absolutely relatable. I think where that where that became a reality for me is actually when I watched my dad leave. Because in many moments of my life, you know, I lived with that memory of watching my dad talk to me about coming home the next day, and me fully recognizing that I wasn't going to see him again. In whether it was intuition or instinct, there was something within me that said, I'm not going to see him again if I don't stop him, you know, and actively trying to tell him not to leave, and crying. I was 6 years old when this happened. I was attempting to stop him from what I know was going to happen, but I couldn't, obviously, and that certainly wasn't anything I could do about it. But from that moment on, the reality that I saw, of recognizing that my dad committed suicide the day he left, and following that, that was when I started to recognize what death is.
Mhm.
And I think what's really interesting about what you just said and what I've been through and what I've kind of started to collect and understand about the world, um, is that, you know, you've talked about talking from the divine feminine, me from the divine masculine, but there's, to me, it's, I think about it differently,
Mhm.
obviously, which is
Yeah.
important because everybody thinks about things differently. And if they align with you, awesome. If they align with me, good, because we're all going to the same place. We're all trying to solve these problems that humanity has to offer.
Yes.
But what we faced essentially was butting up against the the natural world, and I think in many ways the natural order of things, and the idea that violence is a reality in life. And if you don't respect it, if you don't, and when I say violence, I don't mean the traditional understanding of, you know, me punching you or you punching me. I'm talking about the idea that, you know, things die
Mhm.
and things kill to live,
Yes.
right? And
Mhm.
if you don't kill to live, you are probably a plant. And that's about it, right? Like everything else is essentially trying to kill to live. Um, and so when you start understanding that concept, you start realizing where you can actually, you know, hold power in within yourself, and you start understanding that there is a whole world out there that's trying to kill me. There's a whole world out there that's trying to take my life from me, and if I don't stand up to my, you know, to the world, if I don't stand out, um you know, out of the if I don't stand up in the battlefield, like I'm not going to make it. And what that also means is that everybody else is going to die, right? And that's, you know, once my dad died, I didn't understand that. I certainly could not understand that in the first few years. But as I grew and as I kind of built my principles and I built my rules and understood my values and I started to live, when I first encountered a battlefield, that was when it really started to become really abundantly clear to me about what I was really trying to accomplish. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it fully until, you know, obviously 19 years after my dad died. um, I attempted suicide. I had a gun in my hand. I was a millimeter away from pulling that trigger completely. Um, and when I finally recognized, the moment I was 95% through that trigger pull, I recognized the question that I think is so abundantly important for everyone to try and answer, and that is, why am I the person that I am? And when you start to really dive into that question, especially when you go through trauma, you start to actually have to face this idea of violence in the world and within the the reality of life, and that you are going to see very bad things happen. I don't think there's anybody in the world that goes through their life and see that doesn't see bad things happen, whether it's, you know, people dying, people getting
Mhm.
hurt, people hurting you, you
Mhm.
hurting people, because there's so many different kinds of bad things that happen. I think the bad things that happen outweigh the good things that happen personally.
Mhm.
And unless you are uh, abundantly clear about how you perceive the value of positivity and creating those positive moments, it's very, very easy to get lost in those negative ones, and to fall prey to the violence of nature in many regards. That makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. It relates to what I started talking in the last days, which is I know that we are living in a world of darkness. And I also know there is no complete darkness. There is also a dot, a teardrop of light. I don't know,
Mhm.
but it's there. And it could be like in an animation or a movie where you are going towards it and then you just want to, poke it, and you want to drag the sides and you make it bigger, bigger. And then what do you know? You can step inside into the light. And that's a whole new dimension, a whole new world. And to me, in a way, it's what you talk about, positivity. Just define it for yourself and just hold on to that, bring more of that in your life. And also, it reminded me of birth. Birth is the most miraculous thing and the most painful of them all. Like, that is trauma, baby. Yeah. And I had 3, and 2 of them were natural births. The funny thing about some of them, especially the 3rd one, is that I wanted a child with my current husband. I said, like, you are the perfect one. I don't care you're 50. I want to have a child with you. Like, this is like, I was one of those women who said, I want to have a child with you. And poor guy, he didn't want to. He did his best, but God listens to me. And beautiful 9 months. And then the time that I was like, oh no, comes. And yeah. So what I'm saying now is, yes, there is pain, a lot of pain and a lot of trauma. And we've learned that babies, so each of us starts with trauma in life. You're going through darkness and through a tunnel that holds you so tight. You don't even know if you're going to make it. And everything was so beautiful. Why did you have to get out? And then when you're going out, you don't know what's going to happen to you. Mm-hmm. And in a way, no wonder some people think that life and the universe are not a friendly place. Why would they be when they go from trauma to trauma to trauma, But everything happens for a reason, and everything has a cause, and we can change the cause and the reason, at least when we are older. And now, if I may, I want to direct our discussion to something you shared on LinkedIn. I commented today there. Yep. And what stood out for me in your message about the problem with suicide, which was you said something about communication, right? And there was another thing. Expression. And this reminded me, you also talk about parents and about children. Yep. This is part of what I have learned from my past, from what was dysfunction in my family when I was a child. And I tried to shift while being a mother. It was hard. I couldn't do it at first. It took me many years to learn to work on myself and all of that. And I finally did it. And I know it's true. I know what you say is true. I have 2 boys and a girl. And I knew that boys, just like you write in the article, boys are raised in many cultures with this idea of men don't cry. You got to hold on to your emotions. A man doesn't cry. Strong men don't cry. Which is BS, because actually the most beautiful and strongest men I know, they do cry. Oh my gosh, and I love them when they cry, because they are themselves, they express their emotions, and they don't build that shield that doesn't allow them to feel their wives, to connect with their children. That's why we need to raise our boys, children in general, within a safe environment where they know, like I say to my boys, because I learned it from books, I didn't know that. Whenever you do something wrong, it's not you who are wrong or a bad boy or bad kid. It's your attitude that needs some change. So let's work on your attitude, because I love you the way you are. I love you unconditionally. And it's okay. And you know what? It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to yell, to shout. It's okay in my house. It's fine. I would rather you do that than kill me. or destroy some object. Just please say what's on your mind, show what's on your heart. You got to express yourself. Why? Because I want you to grow up as a balanced, emotionally balanced, mentally balanced adult. Why? Because you're the next generation. I know that by raising you like that, the next generations are going to be fine. You know, I'm raising my kids this way, another parent raises their kids that way, and it's going to be okay. I believe in that. I've seen it in my family. It is possible. I have boys who are boys, and in the same time, they are so empathic. They feel people. They are honest, authentic, express themselves, and they actually are so wise that me as a mother, you know, I'm 30 years older than them. I listen to them. My jaw drops sometimes. I'm like, where did you learn that? Nowhere, mom. This comes from your head. Yeah. Wow. You know, and they give me back my lessons. They turn things around, and I'm like, who? Oh yeah, me.
Right.
We can do it, Dylan. I've done it. I know it's possible. We just need to educate ourselves as parents and realize, and then we come back to why did I chose relationships? That's why.
Yeah.
Because we have a relationship with everything in our life. Relationship with self, with our body, with our friends, family, relationship with the environment, relationship with a house, relationship with a context, a circumstance. I don't know. I believe everything in our life is a relationship. And if we see it this way, maybe this connects to what you started with, which is name. You got to name something. When we name something, we can work with it. And when we name something, we actually create a relationship. And when you create a relationship, what it means is that you take that something that it's so hard to deal with, you put it all outside you, and you look at it like an observer. And it's easier this way. If it's part of you, blame, shame, frustration, self-harm, lots of stuff come up. But if you put it outside of you, then it's like, okay, you like a rock. Let's give you some shape a bit. Now you're a heart. I love that. I can put it back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's organizing your thoughts is such a fundamental aspect to this. And,
Yes.
and it's interesting, like what you just said kind of makes me think of, like, it makes me question how people have thought in the past. Right. And I would imagine that before words, we thought with visual pictures and sounds. Right. But now, like, I know what I think about. I think about words, right? I think about the sounds of words. I don't think visually as much as I used to. And I think that has transformed throughout my life because of what I've inundated myself with, which is words. And so it's really interesting to kind of think about all of this stuff when we start having these conversations, especially about trauma, is that how are you actually approaching it? How are you actually thinking about it? Is it words? Is it pictures? Is it sounds? Is it smells? Because those are the things that are going to be, they're going to need to be understood in some regard, and certainly from many different aspects of this conversation, right? And you know, when we talk about emotions, we talk about boys, right? I think one of the biggest lies ever told to my generation as boys is that we're supposed to be emotionless, and that anger is not an emotion, right? Like, we are emotional creatures, and if you think you're an emotionless male, I ask you, if you've ever been angry, what do you think that is? Like, that's an emotion. That's a massive emotion. That's an expressive emotion. And if you think that's the only one that functions in the realm of human communication, well, then you're ignorant, right? And I don't like attacking people like that, but sometimes that's what's necessary, is that there's a certain amount of ignorance when it comes to not only human beings and adults, but kids, right? It's like you said it yourself earlier, is that, When someone makes mistakes, not necessarily that they're a bad person, sometimes
Mhm.
it's literally ignorance.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at ignorance with connotation where ignorance is a bad thing. But it's not. It's
It,
just a thing.
it's a stage. It's
Right.
a stage we all go through. I have my own level of ignorance.
Yes.
I'm not Mrs. Know-it-all. I'm actually Mrs. I don't know what I don't know.
Right. But that's so uncommon, right? And that's the hard part about about these conversations, is that people don't start from a premise of I don't know what I don't know. They
Yeah.
start the conversation with I know,
Mhm.
and that's not going to work, right? Certainly not going to work with trauma, because you have no
No.
idea, right? You have no idea, one, the emotions. You have no idea about how to communicate those emotions. You have no idea how to even take a step outside of yourself and look back on yourself. I
Mhm.
still have trouble sometimes looking at the weaknesses or the failure points of myself,
Yeah.
right? And I'm so lucky that I have a wife that is
Mhm.
willing to step in and say, what do you need today? Because I
Mhm.
rarely ask myself that question. I'm
Mhm.
lucky. I'm so lucky. And I'm also quite skillful because I've been able to keep her, right? And so there's a little bit of luck and there's a little bit of skill there, but regardless of the fact, it's important to understand that we don't have all the control that we desire to have
Mhm. Mhm.
for ourselves. We are not the best people to look at us, right? And that's why you and I have jobs, is that when you have someone else that can look at you and say, hey, what about this? And it might be the first time in your life that you've actually heard that before, or
Yes.
recognized that, or seen that, right?
Mhm.
And we all have different techniques. We all have different ways of doing it.
Mhm.
Um, but it's so it's I will say it's remarkable to kind of sit with a person with such a vast amount of intuition as you have. It's rare that I sit with someone like that. So I definitely want to compliment and celebrate the fact that you are so intuitive and so understanding of other people, and you pay attention clearly, by paying attention to my work, and you make me feel seen for a change,
Mhm.
which is not outside the uh not outside the realm of possibility, but it's quite rare for me, right? I'm usually the one doing the seeing, and it's quite an interesting scenario to be on the receiving end of it.
Um, Dylan, your words uh, bring tears because I love you and every single human alive now. When I had my own suicidal thoughts, I already had 2 children. I had a reason to live for, isn't it? No, I didn't. It was not enough. For me, living for humans is not enough. Living for the humans I gave birth to is not enough. Living for the husband is not enough. Living for me, I don't even care. At least I didn't then.
Mhm.
What started a response of yes, yes, okay. One more day, one more second, one more step was remembering who I really am. And how I remember is because when I was 4 or 5 years old, I was alone in my hometown in my parents' house. I was playing with the dolls. And all of a sudden, I feel a presence. It was not a human because the door was locked. But in the living room where I was playing, a beautiful, tall presence of light was there. I felt so much trust in that presence that when I felt a calling of come here, it was not with words, not with sounds, just a feeling of come, you're safe, come here. I went into the middle of the room where the presence was. You know, it's like almost like in cartoons, but not exactly. It's like there's a magical door and you step in and there's light coming out the door, but there was no door. No, it was just a being calling me. And I simply stepped into the space where the being was. I was facing the windows of the room. And the moment I stepped in a blink of an eye, every wall, every furniture, everything that was physical and 3D disappeared. My eyes, my physical eyes, or the eyes of my mind, I don't even know, saw light. But it was not that really stood out for me. It was the presence. I felt what I wish every single one of us feels right now, every single day, every second. Infinite love, infinite unconditional love, infinite peace, infinite security, presence here and now. And like there is no physical boundary. I was one with the space. The space was one with me. My physical body was, I couldn't feel it. All I knew is that I could see the light and have those feelings. And once I had the intensity of the feeling with all of these peace, love, security, and everything that I needed, everything disappeared. I could see again the room, the furniture, and the being was gone. I discovered years after that that was for me God. That was what I associated with God. And the presence, once I could see Jesus in pictures, for me, that was Jesus. And this is how when somebody says, oh, Jesus loves people, and I don't tell them because it's crazy. But in my heart, I know, yes, I know how it feels like when somebody like Jesus loves you. I felt it in a blink of an eye. And it's so wonderful. I wish everybody could have such an experience because we all deserve it. And my point is that fast forward to that experience with having suicidal thoughts, somehow, I don't know how, I started remembering, I'm not here for the body. I'm not here for the kids. I'm here to be with that presence, to feel that love again, to feel safe, because I am safe. That was the sign that I received, that my life is going to be so hard that I would want to kill myself or somebody would try to kill me. And I have to stay alive because I'm protected and I'm safe. And actually, few years before this moment with the suicidal thoughts, somebody tried to kill me. I was in a toxic relationship and the guy strangled me. And again, I see the light, you know, I saw darkness. I'm like, what the heck? And then I see the light and I see a Buddha somewhere. And I'm like, why Buddha? I don't believe in Buddha. I'm a Christian Orthodox. What the heck is this? And there was a happy Buddha, you know, just, oh, meditating there and nothing was moving, just the Buddha and the light. And then again, that feeling of go back, this is not your time yet. And I go back and this guy is above me. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Anyway, he wanted to kill himself. He took a knife and then I'm going to kill you. Then I'm going to kill myself. I'm like, what is this, a joke? Are you kidding me? Anyway, everything was fine. Nobody was hurt. But I always had these instances of remembering, remember why you're here. Remember why you're here. And now I clearly know because when I started practicing heart imagery, almost the same light and almost the same feeling I got when I started going deep in the sacred space of my heart. And what heart imagery does is the mind becomes an observer. And you're just listening to a guidance that is a specific guidance. It's not hypnosis, by the way. You're shifting your awareness, going inside in an intuitive or non-intuitive way. There are many ways to do that, and it's related to the Kabbalistic tradition. You go there inside your heart, and guess what? that's where you meet God. And I can testify because it is a similar feeling as, and almost the same color of light I see as in that image 5 years ago, that experience. And God, it just feels so good. It's like you take a bath with all the smells and the hot water and just lying there and you're like, that's exactly how it feels when you go in that space. The most amazing thing apart from that is the more you go back, the more you came back to it, to yourself, to that sacred space, the more you're healing trauma. I never knew heart imagery can help you heal trauma. It happens. Subconscious beliefs turn around. Like it's a lot of stuff. And I don't know if it's really going to help you and the audience, because you got to experience these things. And for every single one of us is different. For me, I feel God inside me. And because I feel God inside me, I also have that feeling that you and I, Dylan, are one. You and I and the audience and everybody in the world, we are one. There is something inside us that brings me that remembering, that moment of, we are all the same thing. They're beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond anything. It's actually one single soup of love and safety and appreciation and whatever we want. It's right here, inside and outside.
It's really interesting. When you started talking about right at the end there, we are one. I saw TikTok, and I'm a TikTok guy, obviously. My audience knows this. I don't know how much you know about me.
Oh, I know, because I watched. Yeah.
So I watched a TikTok the other day of an anthill in Africa that they decided to excavate because it was a massive colony. And so they excavated it, and it turned out to be massive. Like the ants themselves moved, I think it was 10 tons of earth to make this. And they talked about this idea of this is one mind acting together, and it was all of the most efficient pathways to get to where they were going, and create this air exchange for the ant colony to actually survive underground. And it got me thinking right just now when you're talking about this, like, it's pretty remarkable what we have done as a planet of, and we can look at this and say, like, capitalism and communism and this ism and this ism are all terrible for the planet, and we're not being eco-friendly. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We can say that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that in a very remarkably short period of time, like, ants don't hold a candle to what we've been able to accomplish together.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout history, this is another thing that I've learned recently, is that violence itself has actually historically continuously gone down throughout human history.
Mm-hmm.
That we've always been historically violent, but the acts of aggression, and obviously we look at like World War II and we look at World War I and realize that we have a higher capacity to conduct violence, but what it seems like is that we have a more controlled and focused way of conducting that violence, in which we care more about collateral damage now than we ever have. Yep. Right? We don't try to involve, like, and I'm not saying there's not unethical wars or these things, like, but I look at TikTok and I just look at what I know, right? I know TikTok pretty well. In no part of human history have we ever been able to have the conversations we have on TikTok at the scale that we have on TikTok ever. Mm-hmm. And so what our parents learned in the Great Depression was vastly different to what we're able to learn now, right?
Yes.
When things happen in 1930, when things happened in 1908, when things happened in 1776, they were nothing in comparison to the scale of communication,
Yes.
the openness, the honesty, the
Yes.
realism, certainly the misinformation,
Yes.
the conspiracy theories. That, like, we have never in human history had a higher amount of communication ever. And what that tells me is that we want to communicate.
Yeah.
We want to get more efficient at it. We want to get better at it. We want to learn more. I don't care if it's for advertising money, right? If that's what TikTok is really trying to do. There is a willingness for billions of people to get onto a social networking platform and talk to each other, to learn from each other, to listen to each other, to understand each other. And what that tells me is that there is this desire for empathy. There's even a desire for hate. There's a desire for love. There's a desire for just being depressed, disgruntled, hateful. Like there's all sorts of desires, but there's one thing that connects us all. It's being human together. Right.
Yeah.
And that has only, from what history teaches us, that has only become less violent, which is in stark contrast to nature, right? Because nature is a violent place, and to ultimately win in the circle of life is to kill, right? Whether you're killing plants or killing animals or killing germs, it doesn't matter. If you're to live, you have to kill for whatever reason. And we've become the most efficient killers in the history of killing machines. I'm a purveyor of realism, and I think that's a really important understanding, is that we are literally killing machines to the point where we segregate killing so that we don't have to see it and we can just live continuously, right?
We are very good at this, I think.
Yeah. And whether that's good or bad, not for me to tell you. I don't know. But we are in a really interesting time in human history where we're able to have conversations like this. Like, we could have 100 people have conversations like this, 2 people having conversations, and then on TikTok scroll through them in a matter of 20 minutes, right? And 100 1-hour conversations can be diffused and miniaturized into 25 minutes. That's remarkable. How much knowledge can come from that? How much wisdom, to the point where I don't think humanity even knows how to operate with that much knowledge, that much wisdom, or that much misinformation. We don't know how to actually use it right now. And that's why we're all arguing with each other, because we have no idea how to actually bring it all together and connect it and learn how to decipher it, how to filter it, how to appreciate it. It's an interesting situation, especially with, I'm on TikTok. I'm a part of it. Like, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. I have no idea, but it's always interesting. It's something that I think about a lot, and it kind of brings, you brought it out of me with that one element of humanity. So I
already have at least 4 or 5 comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I will start from the closest to the farthest. You asked yourself, or you were saying about, you don't know if it's good or bad, about TikTok. Well, if you're there, you're making it good, because it's not the TikTok, it's what people do with it. TikTok, for me, like anything, like a knife or anything, can be used in any way. We can use it to heal. We can use it to kill. It's a choice. And you talk about choice on TikTok, right? You always tell people you have a choice. See, I heard you. So whatever comes into our lives, technology, opportunity, circumstance, whatever it is, it's a tool. And that's why I said that whatever it is, just like you say, give it a name so you can work with it. Why? Because it's a tool. Everything is a tool. Emotions, a tool. Feelings, a tool. Anger is a tool. Some people use anger to motivate themselves. I'm not saying it's the best thing ever, but you know what? If it motivates you to wake up every day being angry because you want to be the one who changes the world, please do that. I will love your anger because that's going to make you bring change. Hating, somebody hates blah blah. Hate is not good. Doesn't help you in terms of emotions and heart coherence, brain, and all of that. But you know what? If hate is going to drive you to wake up in the morning, drink your coffee, say to your kid, okay, I'm going to take you to school, that means you're alive. And guess what? You're going to bring a change in the world just by being alive. So that is one thing. Everything is a tool. Then we are social beings. Yes, that's why I say, like what you said, all these examples you gave for me was like, we want to connect, people. Mm-hmm. We want to connect. We love connection. We are yearning for connection. We want this more than ever. Why? I don't know why. Maybe because new generations like us are tired of trauma, are tired of this separation, isolation. Like you say, long ago, people lived in a way. Now we live in a society where information comes so fast. And talking about information and filtering, my question when you were speaking was why? We are not asking ourselves the why. And I related to what you said about ignorance. We are not asking questions. We are not learning how to think. We have no values. Not that you and I don't have or the audience doesn't have. I mean, in general, it takes having values, learning how to think. So learning how to ask questions. Maybe at the beginning I thought, oh, questions. My dad told me, Andrea, you got to learn how to think. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, thank you. Why don't you teach me? You keep telling me, but you don't teach me. He taught me, but through stories. He didn't know how to put it logically and give me sequences and steps. I had to figure out on my own, and now I'm doing it with other people. Yeah. So we need to learn what are the best questions to ask to have the courage. Like you said in the beginning, you got to have courage. Have courage, ask questions, ask support. Why? Because like you said, Dylan, we don't see the label outside the jar. We are in the jar. We don't see the label. We need feedback. Yep. I can look in the mirror, but I don't always see myself the way I really am in the mirror. Like sometimes I could say, you bitch.
You can say it here. This is not a clean.
Maybe my kids are going to listen, so I'm not going to put it up right. So, you can look in the mirror and remember what you did to your ex, and then you're like, oh, you. Yeah. But if you skip that and you say, okay, I forgive myself, I'm going to embrace myself, and I'm going to own what I did. Okay. When you pass that, you close the door, you focus on what's in the mirror, and then if you allow it, what you're going to see. Oh, I see my mother's eyes. What does that say? She was sunshine, and well, I can be too. Oh, that's better. That's called self-love. So we can take ourselves to a process. And if we cannot do that, then we need a mirror, a human mirror, somebody who is outside of us, a friend. Even foes can tell you the truth, by the way. A foe is very good. They are blunt. They will tell it to your face. Yep. And you'll just have to swallow it and deal with it. And you will find the truth. And if you have the courage to take it, to work with it, to process it, take a break, process it again, whatever you do, this is how we're going to get out of the ignorance. And this is how we're going to be able to bridge, connect, and change. And I believe as long as we are alive, every second we are alive, we are bringing change into the world. Because it's, Dylan, let's say before you met me, you went through such a horrible moment that you were thinking that, okay, now this is it. I'm going to end this life. If you had done that, you and I wouldn't have met, right? We wouldn't have this conversation that actually helps both of us. So Any decision we make every second, any second when we are alive, gives life an opportunity to teach us something and gives somebody else. And I pray that whoever's listening right now really listens to this message. Every time you make a decision to stay alive, move forward, call somebody, ask how are they doing, or ask for forgiveness. Anything you do, say, think, or however you act, know that that thing you are doing, thinking, feeling, being alive means that you are giving somebody else an opportunity to see you again, to hug you again, to smile at you. And actually, you may actually give somebody a chance to say no to killing themselves. This is so important. I remember I think the most inspiring story about the importance of a simple thing was when I heard that one day in a store, a cashier was just meeting people hello and just doing her thing. And I don't remember if it was the cashier or the client, but one of them smiled at the other. And in that moment, in that blink of an eye, the other person answered, "Thank you." It actually saved his life or her life. A simple smile, kindness, just something from the heart, a simple smile can save a life. That person having the experience of goodness, of kindness, of a smile. Somebody looked at me and smiled. Somebody saw me. This can save a life. And it only takes what? Just putting up the lips? 1, 2 seconds? This is so important. We are so precious to life and for each other. And that is something that I hope we all remember. Because if you and I, Dylan, and everybody listening is here and now, it means we are something. It means we are here to do something great. And it could be that it affects just one person or 1,000. You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people we touch. It doesn't matter how we impact other people's lives. What it matters is that we do something with what we have, with who we are, with what we know, and that we have the courage to make one more step, one more step.
I love it. I just appreciate your enthusiasm and your positivity and your willingness to talk about these things. I think from a perspective that's quite rare. Obviously it's not easy to have these conversations about things like suicide and mental health, but I think most importantly, suicide and trauma, and being able to openly share these things as you do, with remarkable eloquence. It's incredible. I don't know if you ever hear that very often, but it's impressive to hear you talk about these things and to just do what you do. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
There is somebody in my life that I love very much. And I wish he listens to this. And I wish he follows you and he's going to listen to you. It's a teen. Because I understand very well, very deep, any human being. Like I can literally see through people in their bodies, in their emotions, in their mind. I really go deep. But I cannot help everybody. And that's a fact. And I cannot tell every single one of you how precious you are, how much you are loved. You gotta feel it. Until you feel it, you won't know that my words speak the truth. And how you and this teen can feel it is by allowing yourself to be known, allowing yourself to be seen, allowing yourself to be heard, allowing yourself to be valued and appreciated. And what I mean is, please, when you have somebody in your life who wants to listen, who wants to help, who you feel safe with, please try to ignore how they look, how they talk, what they have or haven't done, what is their relationship with you, anything. Ignore those things and just keep those things that matter, that you feel safe, they hear you, they see you, they feel you. If you give them that chance, and if you continue to speak to them, your life is going to change. That might be the single thread you have in your life to take yourself back in the labyrinth of your heart and the maze of your heart, to take yourself back to your core, back to your power, back to your connection, back to your gifts. I know people who have missed that. I pray they will be fine. They are for now, but I know that we can stop ourselves from helping ourselves just because we don't know what really matters when we have somebody in our life. We can ignore the most precious people, the best mentors, the best guides, the best friends, just because we let our minds control our actions and decisions. The mind is a tool. And actually, the mind is like any other friend. You know, you gotta listen, you gotta, okay, you know, just make your own opinion. You are not the mind. The mind is just a tool.
Yeah. It's just, you know, and I agree with that. It's operating software.
Yeah.
To put it in, you know, relatable terms for those of us that have IT experience, right? It's an operating software. It can be upgraded, it can be updated, it can be
And you
changed.
can make it a friend, you know,
Yeah.
like we can, our mind, the one who says, take this knife, take the gun, pull the trigger, that is actually somebody who doesn't get it. So we need to speak to that mind and say, come on, buddy, let's have a drink. You and I, let's stay here. Let's have a drink. Let's listen to a song. Like, let's talk. What's up with you, huh? Where did you come up with all these things? What got into that? And then we come to what you said, Dylan. We get to the trauma. We get to that moment when we saw our father doing this and this and that, when we saw our mother crying, and I don't know, we will see that. Just talk with your mind like you're talking to a buddy, and then see that your mind is just a little kid who's scared, who doesn't want to lose something that was never his or hers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Andrea, it's been wonderful to have you here, and to hear you talk, and to hear your vision and your perspective of the world, so remarkably similar, obviously, to mine. I got to ask you one more question. One I ask everybody, and I think I'm excited to hear what you have to say. If there was a message you could leave the world, what would it be?
You are loved. You are seen. You are hurt. And guess what? I can feel you. Wherever you are in the world, I can feel you. Dylan can feel you. Anybody can feel you. Feel yourself. You are precious. You matter. We need you. Stay alive. I love you.
Wonderful. Well, for those of you who have made it to the end of this and listened all the way through, thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you for joining me. And if you haven't followed already, if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do so you can hear more interviews or more podcast episodes. But again, thank you. If you've made it this far, we'll see you next time on the Dylan Experience.
Thank you.
And that's it.